Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Lisa Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. I am Lisa Florida, host of 8 Billion Project, and today I have the pleasure of starting this new venture. And that's pretty much it. And I've got a special guest for all of you. I've got David Ledlow, who is a Marine Corp veteran, as well as a counterpart to the podcasting world. He is the host of Fearless Mindset podcast, and I have the pleasure of having him on today. So how you doing, Mark?
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's a treat. You're the first one to host me.
So yes, this one will always be my most memorable podcast because this is podcast episode number 1, other than my inaugural with Christopher Decker. But
right.
I just wanted to say thank you for agreeing to be on this podcast, my first episode. Would you like to just go ahead and let everyone know about yourself?
Well, to be honest with you, I hate talking to myself. And when Christopher and I first did this thing, I think it was so bad that it's like I froze up because my brain went into a paralysis and it froze. And I'm looking at this camera right there going, I have maybe 1 million people watching me. What do I say? I just froze. And so my brain it kind of melted like ice when Christopher started asking me. But I think after I got used to all this, it's not a big deal anymore. We're having a conversation. But it kind of brought me back to that moment with Chris. And
it's so crazy because I had the same moment with Chris too.
Yeah, it's
you really asking questions. He's like, yeah, we're really recording this.
I'm going in for oral surgery. Open your mouth. My brain just went boop, boop, boop. Right. But yeah, I'll tell you a little bit of myself. Be happy to share that. I served in the Marine Corp for 8 years. And before that, I was a wildland firefighter. And my history is complex. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of not normal. My dad was a pastor. I'm actually a preacher's kid. I have 4 younger sisters. And I had never thought I'd be on the journey I've been on. But the Marine Corps definitely opened up a lot of doors for me. When you're 24 years old, going through boot camp and going through the pain and misery of being drilled out by drill instructors, you just don't know what you don't know. And it's been a journey that you could probably make a movie about, but I probably wouldn't watch my own movie. So there you go.
Right.
But yeah, it's been surreal. It's been, I would never guessed I've had the opportunities I've had because the Marine Corps opened up so many opportunities, law enforcement background. I worked in a small town, you would call it Mayberry, Barney Fife, Mayberry. I was a reserve cop there. I worked in corrections and got exposed to the juvenile correction world, the adopted child system of Oregon is where I got my feet wet. And you just learn that people have had a tough time. People have had some dark days out there, and you get exposed to the negative, to the bad of culture and society. And then when you get a taste of the good stuff, you realize that people are not as fortunate as you are. So my life is not the typical career of a 20-year career and as a school teacher or running a 20-year business. It's just my life has been nothing short of a crazy journey.
Yeah. No, and I think that's really the premise of really why I wanted to start this podcast, because like I said, there's 8 billion people in this world by 2023, and Christopher actually helped me realize that when we Googled it. But in essence, there are 8 billion stories, and no 2 people have the same journey. And so what I'm saying is, in some cases, there are some people that have 20-year, 30-year, 40-year careers of the same path. And I respect and honor that, but other people have not had that path. And I'm the same way too. And in being able to share their stories, I just want to be able to reach out to most of humanity, letting them know that not everyone has had that perfect journey of like, this is exactly where I know where I want to go. And this is what I'm going to do for 40 years, right? And so in being able to share everyone's different stories and the different pathways, it just allows us to connect on like even a deeper level. Because like what I was just going to say, if you were raised in a family that your father was a pastor, what made you go into the military? And by the way, thank you so much for your service, because my father is a veteran for the U.S. Navy, and I definitely have so many friends and family that are also U.S. veterans. So I really want to say thank you for your service, not only to you, but to everyone who actually will come across this podcast.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was an honor. My dad, it's funny. I told him, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. And the first words out of his mouth are you crazy? If you lost your mind, you can't even get up out of bed in the morning to go to work. I'm 21, 22. But my dad was always challenging. He was a Vietnam vet himself. And he wasn't easy on me. He knew how hard life would be. And I can remember, him waking me up in the morning and him demanding that I go on a paper route with him at 5 a.m. to teach me work ethic in my junior high years. I'm like, I got to watch cartoons, Dad. I got the Smurfs coming on, and I don't want to be delivering papers for $5 for the day. Yeah. Son, you're going to learn a work ethic. And, that's one thing I learned about my dad. He was very focused. He had, me and my four sisters. I don't know how many sisters. I think I had 2 at the time, but he taught me a work ethic. And being a pastor, he was, it wasn't easy being in a pastor's family. We never had any money. And I think what drew me to LA, Southern California, is something I never had, but it was almost like a dream in my head that I had in my college years. Like, well, I could be a cop, but they have a high divorce statistics, and they get killed on the job, and now we're defunding them across the country. Go figure that one out. That doesn't make any sense, but yeah, whatever. Politics. A mentor of mine once said, politics means one thing: a politic, they're bloodsuckers.
So that's what ended up happening. You came to LA at 21 years old?
What was the question?
You did you say you made your way to Los Angeles at 21 years old?
No, I joined the military when I was 23. I was a wildland firefighter up in Oregon. I had the adrenaline thing going on. I just couldn't get out of my system. So I was a wildland firefighter. And then I think at the age of 23, 24, I joined the Marine Corps. And then at the age of 30, I think I moved to LA. I got sick of the small world of Mayberry. I got bored with it. I just didn't feel a challenge. I just didn't have that challenge. There was nothing challenging like my dad. My dad was very challenging. He was, preacher, he had these standards. Mark, you will not go to a movie. You will not go dancing. You won't do this. Because, he was just trying to spare me because he knew what kind of trouble I could get into. Yeah. And he was just trying to save me from myself. And I get it now. I understand. And so I moved to LA, I think 30 years old, 31. And that's when I moved down there.
And and as far as your time as a Marine Corps, what was that like? Like, did you have a specialty in something, or what were?
Yeah, I was private, and then everybody starts to private. You go private first class, and you go up the ranks in the military. I was in radio communications. I was a radio operator, and in school they told us we're the first ones to get shot when we got off the helicopter. That was reassuring. I'm like, oh, really? In Vietnam, you had a 30-second lifespan. As soon as you get off the helicopter, like, well, we're not in Vietnam. We're in the Clinton era. I actually served in the Bill and Clinton administration when I was in for 8 years. And so, people think they're all getting political on, social media. I'm like, well, tell that to a military veteran who served under whatever administration you hate, because most military guys, really politically, you just don't go there. You're like, hey, the commander-in-chief tells me to go somewhere. You got to go there, and your life may be on the line too on the mission. You might get killed. And so, I was willing to give my life up for our freedom under the Bill Clinton administration. And so, people can't really argue with that.
No kidding. So, would you say that the military changed the trajectory of your life?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. I've had opportunities I'm not even qualified for opened up because of the military. But, oh, you're a Marine, you can do this. Like, and I was a banker. I had no desire to be a banker, but good perks, good benefits. I was actually working for another company, and I was trying to get merchant services contracts. And the banker said, "You know what? We're looking for a business relationship manager here. I think you'd be good at it." I'm like,
Because
oh crap! What did I just do? What's that?
Is it the skill sets you learned in the Marine Corps?
Nope. I didn't learn. They didn't teach you accounting and spreadsheets in the Marine
That's
Corps.
what I was just going to say. I was just like, like you were saying, it definitely opened doors.
It just opens doors. Oh, you're a Marine. You can figure it out. Oh, and I hated that job. I hated it, but I learned so much about finance and the finance world and real estate. I mean, the girl that hired me was actually Tony Robbins' coordinator out of Southern California. And she taught me about the onion theory. You got to peel the onion to get into it and all that. And she taught me a lot of those theories, and I learned a lot. But yeah, the Marine Corps just opened up so many doors, and to this day, it still opens up opportunities.
Right. Okay. So now you've served 8 years in the Marine Corps, and you're probably what, 32? What did you decide to do after that?
About 32, 33.
About 33.
Yeah, I moved down there. I knew I want to get in the security world, the private sector. I read research when I was working in the county detention, the juvenile detention center in Southern Oregon, and I did my research at night when I was working night shift, going, the bodyguard role. That sounds kind of interesting, intriguing. So I moved down there. I got my concealed weapons permits and all of my permits I needed to work, and then I got on a full-time contract in Southern California on a year-long contract, actually, and made the most money I ever made in my life. I'm like, this is addicting.
Yeah.
Protecting people, making good money. Okay, this is kind of fun.
So you went from Oregon down to LA on a project or a security contract. And how long did you end up doing that for?
I was down there for a good probably 7 years, 8 years.
Under the same contract?
That thing went a year. Then I jumped on work for multiple companies in Southern California. And in order to survive, you got to work for multiple companies because one company may have a contract for a little while, then it runs out, then somebody else has another contract, and they need bodies. So, as an executive protection guy, you're jumping from company to company just to pay the bills. And that's the hardest thing about the security industry, the executive protection industry, is you're always in survival mode just to pay the bills. Nice. And so one contract may last 6 months, and it's over, then you got to look for another one. Or you're waiting for the Middle Eastern royal families to come in from the Middle East into Southern California. They like to go shopping in Beverly Hills, or they like to get their medical treatment done. Because all the wealthy people, it's weird, from all over the world, go to Beverly Hills to get their medical treatment. Everybody kind of knows that to be the norm in the security industry.
They come into the United States to get all their medical treatment? Is that what you're saying?
Typically, yes.
And so they hire private security such as yourself.
Right, because if they're from, let's say, for example, they're from Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and they come into the U.S. and, crime's high in different parts of L.A., they just want security. Typically, it's for their kids. The parents really don't want it, but it's to keep an eye on the kids, typically. And so everybody knows that they tip pretty well, and they were known to tip really well. But then they had change of the guards in Saudi Arabia, for example. And that all changed because the crown prince got in there and he started cracking down on all of the royal families from coming to the States to do their visits and trips, and that affected the whole security industry too. So when the changes of the guards happened, it affects economies, it affects the security industry. I mean, I think this last year alone in Beverly Hills was probably one of the worst years they've ever had because they had no royal families from the Middle East coming in to do their medical treatments, to do their vacations, and go shopping. I mean, the whole industry got hit pretty hard because of COVID-19.
No, I can imagine that. That's when we first connected. We were talking about that because I was asking you what you had experienced, how COVID actually affected the industry that you're in. So going back, so you start executive protection at the age of about 32 to 33, and then you do it up until the current time frame. or what other things have you done in between? Because we're going to lead up to the Fearless Mindset podcast, but
right.
I wanted to take people down the road of your timeline.
So yeah, I just, I got in the industry and I made up my mind that, hey, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to network like crazy and get to know people. And, that took me probably a good 10 years to network, to get to know a lot of different people and create my own brand, I guess, create my own reputation in the industry, so to speak.
Right. And of course, you probably, like what you're saying, you network. And so you're going to team up sometimes with other counterparts in the industry to provide protection. And so from that moment now, leading up to so basically what I just wanted to say is, in that 10-year time frame, you must have seen the most interesting things, and some probably you cannot talk about. Are there any unique experiences that you can actually share publicly with the podcast of some of the maybe the highlights of your career?
I would say I was at a crossroads one time. I had an opportunity to work for it was a decision I had to make. I think it was in my third year into doing private sector stuff. I was doing some stuff in Hollywood too at the time, and I did an audition for a USA commercial. And there was 3 people that were picked first. They all dropped out, ironically, and I figured out what was going on, and they had better offers with some other families making better money. And those guys dropped out, highly skilled military guys, and they went through 3 rounds of guys, and they all called off. And it was like probably would have been a $60,000 payday with residuals running a USA national commercial. And I had to make a decision between USA commercial, or am I going to go to do the security thing full time? Am I going to be an actor? Am I going to go do security? And I had to make a decision. I even called my mom. Mom, what do I do? And my mom, being, pastor's wife, she goes, Mark, just pray about it. God will lead you. I'm like, oh, Mom, I hate that answer. And so I had to make a decision that minute, within an hour, what I was going to do. And am I going to go Hollywood, be an actor? And I don't want to be a broke actor, or do I want to go on some opportunity? And it's so ironic how things work out. I chose to take the Saudi, Middle Eastern family opportunity, and the royal family. And I don't want to say too many names and all that, but I took that position, and that summer opened up so many doors. The guy I ran into was Tony Rodriguez, who's a now good friend of mine in Southern California. He's a retired LAPD cop. And he was actually with a family member of the person I was with. And they were all there for medical. And to this day, we're friends. And to this day, we've done a lot of business together in Southern California. The guy is, they call him the juice of Southern California. He's got a lot of influence, being an LAPD retired. His brother's one of the agencies in Southern California as well. And his other guy named Mike, he's down there too. He's with Paris Hilton, to name many few that he's worked with, and different major icons and entertainment. And to this day, we've been doing business together. And that door opened because of one little decision I made. And it was kind of fearful, because I'm like, well, I could do this and that. It's all about, fearless mindset. Are you going to be afraid of the decision you have to make sometimes? And sometimes you only have a minute, an hour to make that decision that could affect the rest of your life.
No, and that's exactly, I'm literally having an epiphany right now when you're sitting here and telling your story, because I had no clue what my question, what you would answer as. But in answering that, this is exactly what I wanted to do 8 billion for. Is you're telling the story, and sometimes there's decisions you make, you come to a crossroad, right? And that literally will change the trajectory of your life. So one was military. And then after coming out, and this is what happens with most veterans, right? They're like, well, what do I freaking do, right? Sorry. What do I do? And then, so now you're choosing, and then you come to another crossroad, and do you go down acting, or do you go down this pathway for security. And then you call your mom. And sometimes that's what some people do. Like, okay, I'll just know the answer the next morning. Let me ask you, if you go back to that moment right after your mom said, you'll just know what to do, Mark, what was it that made you choose the security direction?
Because I had to be real with myself. I had to be authentic. The reality of me becoming a well-paid actor is my probability of being struck by lightning is much higher than me becoming a great paid actor. I mean, that's just reality. I'm not born in the business. Most of these people that are successful start when they're kids. And I've just had to be real with myself. Like, okay, where's your passion at, Mark? I love security. My background's law enforcement, military. And I just didn't have a passion to be auditioning 5 days a week and work as a waiter, a bartender in Hollywood. I did not want to sacrifice that for that power to fame. Fame does not mean nothing to me. It means nothing. I'd rather serve my military guys or serve with them and my brothers and sisters in the military and security than audition the rest of my life for that one chance to become a major role in a Hollywood movie. I just don't care. I don't care.
You just said it right there, right? It was like you could see yourself continually having passion to serve in terms of security and protection. And because you chose that, everything opened up, right? It was almost like, okay, choose 2 doors, Mark. And then you followed, in essence, almost your heart and your passion, because you knew, like, you came from military. You've been with a lot of these guys. You've put your lives on the line for each other. And somehow deep and sub or super consciously, you knew what was the right direction for you.
Yeah, and sometimes you second guess yourself. Sometimes you question yourself. Sometimes you question even your security about yourself, your DNA of who you really are. I think James Hamilton said it best with Gavin Becker on my podcast. He goes, Mark's in our DNA. If we're protector, if we had the instinct to protect somebody, it's in our DNA. And I knew from a long time ago, my DNA being an older brother to 4 younger sisters, I was naturally a protector. And it's just who I am. And do I really want to be broke trying to make it big in Hollywood? Not really. I don't care. I'd rather pay my bills and have a life. Because those guys sacrifice so much for the entertainment, for being who they are. And, I have a lot of respect for those guys. I couldn't do it. It's just it's not my passion. It's not what I was made for.
Yes. And you're right, though. In this journey along the way, you will second guess yourself from time to time.
Absolutely.
Often it ends up happening to be the basis of fear, right? Fear, like, did I make the right decision? Did I do the right thing? Oh, maybe I should have gone this way. But I think you just realize, like, it's an ever evolving journey of just letting it unfold. Like, would you ever believe that you'd be a host of a podcast today?
Never.
Right?
In fact, when Chris rolled it by me, the idea, I looked at him like, Christopher, I'm the most skeptic, most analytical guy in the planet you've ever met. I'm a Marine, for goodness sake. And podcast, that's Joe Rogan's thing. That's the king of pod. What's his name? The other tall guy with long hair. I can't think of his name. Shock Factor guy. In my head, I'm like, I'm not a podcaster. Why are we having this conversation? And then the Marine Corps mentality came in my mind and goes, overcome and adapt. We have 2021 here and we have COVID-19. What are you going to do, buddy? What are you going to do? You can't go work in bodyguard because they're really not hiring because everybody's staying in their home locked down. Nobody's going around. No one's moving. What are you going to do? Okay, the fear of the unknown. You got November 3rd coming around. Fear is going to get elected. Shoot. We're all paralyzed by fear. Why? Because we just don't know what next week, next year holds. So everybody's just freaking out. So with me, it was like a come to yourself moment. Look yourself in the mirror. Like, you can't go to conferences. And so Christopher and I had a really good talk, intense talk for about a couple of weeks. I didn't want to do it. And then Christopher is kind of a sales guy. That's what he does. And he sold me. I'm like, okay, all right. And I'm like, podcast? Have I lost my mind? And to be honest with you, I'm having a blast with it now. But You have to get over yourself, get through yourself, go around yourself, and get under yourself. The person that you look in the mirror will be your worst adversary in life every day, every second of your life.
Sure. Absolutely.
I think that came from Sylvester Stallone and Rocky.
Okay, so moving forward, you start this podcast, Fearless Mindset. How'd you come up with the name?
My dad.
Yeah. Was it something he said to you? Was it your little boot camp with Christopher, and then all of a sudden it clicked?
I got to pull myself together. My dad was fearless in his battle with cancer.
Oh, it just gives me chills.
Oh boy.
You know why?
Yeah, he was fearless, and he just had no fear of death. When you go through that journey and that walk with your parent, it shakes you to your core. It flips you upside down. It takes every ounce of life you have out of you. And he gave me the passion to do this.
You know what I was going to say, Mark? I now know why we met. I lost my mom to cancer in 2018. I didn't even know I was going to freaking cry, and probably this is going to be one of the best podcasts, because I know in this moment, I know why we met. I think both our parents had designed for this to happen, because I think it was their inspiration that led us to this juncture in our lives to take this leap of faith into the unknown podcasting world.
Yeah. Just, that journey, how he was, he didn't complain. He didn't moan, groan, whine, hit anybody. He knew he'd leave this earth fighting for his Lord, witnessing. He was a pastor. He's going to share the gospel with everybody he came across. I called him a little Billy Graham of Grants Pass, Oregon, and everybody loved him. He was Mr. Comedian. He was going through stage 4 brain cancer, but he didn't let it get it down. He never one day did he say one negative thing about anything in life. He just kept trying. He was a warrior. He was my inspiration.
My mom is my inspiration. In fact, I have this little angel that I always carry with me for all of my shows. And now I know exactly why. I feel maybe both of our parents are present in this. But same thing, my mom was diagnosed with bile duct cancer, which is liver cancer, in 2017. She made it about 10 months. And I just actually did a live stream with my siblings about 2 weeks ago in honor of her 77th birthday. And we shared our journey of supporting someone with cancer, because it really does. It shakes everything out of you just to watch. You can't even put the words in, you can't even put the right words to explain it. But what we did was, I said to my brother and sister, I said, let's do this. I said, it's been 2 years since mom passed. I think we're a little bit more stable now that we can probably get words out of our mouth. And let's just share the journey and share the energy and share the love with others, knowing that we've all been there. And at least if we could support in just saying, I empathize and I sympathize with you, I know what it feels like, love is really ultimately everything that carries you, because I can't begin to tell you, and we even talked about this in the live stream, that if my mom had listened to so many doctors telling her, have you ever considered going into hospice already? Like, she was only at the beginning of her cancer journey, and she fought to the very end. They were even telling her, oh, you look much better than your chart. I mean, half of the things sometimes some people would say, like, I can't even believe would come out of their mouth. Yet she had this desire and drive to just keep pushing, didn't shed a tear. And I was just like, and yet here we are, me, my brother and sister, crying tears every day. But that's like really the true love of like either a parent or someone that has absolutely a fearless mindset. Yeah.
That's where it came from. My dad.
What an amazing, I do apologize, Mark. I didn't know, like,
we got to be raw. When you do this podcast stuff, it doesn't matter what people think. What my dad taught me was you got to be passionate. You got to live today like it's your last. It doesn't matter what people think in that audience. It doesn't matter. It's your story. It's your life. And people want to judge you on your experiences. Well, too bad for them. They have to get over themselves. They got to get over their insecurities. And that's what I learned about my dad. He was over it. He didn't care. You got to live like you just don't care what people think. And you're going to have so much joy and happiness if you don't care what people think.
Yeah.
It gives you such it gives you such a freedom that unleashes you to do so much more, because if we're so concerned about what people think and what we're going to say on this podcast, that's their loss.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, it's very, when people don't have sympathy and empathy, they don't get it. Wait till you lose both of your parents. Then we can have a discussion. But life is hard. Life has no sympathy for anybody. Life has no mercy. And that's what's propelled me to be where I'm at today with my dad. Mind you, like I shared with Ben Corson, Generation Hope, yesterday, he was on my podcast, and he lost his mom, his sister, and his brother died 6 months before my dad died, and he was 50 years old.
Wow.
Of cancer. And now, look at Ben Corson now. He's blowing up on TBN and all these other broadcast feeds that, he dealt with depression and suicide tendencies. And that kid inspired me like no other yesterday. But if you get so stuck on the loss and the grieving, and like Ben Corson shared with me, the best thing you can do is get so busy on your next project, because we're only on this earth for a little minute and we're done. We're all done, and life goes on. And just people get so caught up in themselves, they can't get out of their own way, and they're paralyzed by fear. That's why I got fearless mindset. It's just how you got to be in life, because there's so much you can do. But yeah, life hits you with curveballs. What are you going to do? I mean, I was down for about 1.5 years with my dad. It took me about a year.
Me too.
And that's just the grieving process. Yeah. What's that?
And mine was a year too. It was really a year. And then I think starting from there, the trajectories just started changing. But I would always talk to my mom. I was like, and she started this real estate business, and that's what we do, my brother and I. And I always thought, okay, I'm just going to follow in my mom's footsteps. She was an amazing real estate agent. She was very giving and all this kind of stuff. And little did I know, the little guidance and the little shifts in the road were all guiding her. It was her guidance for me to share my true gift. She's like, I did it in real estate. She goes, you guys are good. Like, you have the skill sets, but Lisa, I want you to follow really what your heart's passion is. And for me, it's the inspiration to share love, share messages like yourself. And this is an amazing first episode for me. I had that's what I was, this is exactly the vision that I had, that when I have these conversations, if I'm able to ask the right questions, that the true message starts to come out.
Yeah, you got to be authentic with yourself, because you're not being authentic with yourself and being real with yourself. You're not living life. You're not living.
No.
And you got to live each day like it's your last. That's why I do keep doing the podcast. And, I haven't had really any negative feedback, because it's like, what's skeptics gonna say?
Yeah.
What are they really say? And the last time I checked in history, they haven't built any monuments or statues of any skeptics in history that I know of.
Yeah, that's true, right?
So be a skeptic. Who's going to listen to you? Nobody.
No one is going to listen to you. That's true.
So yeah, just how you look at life for me. So my dad was a big driving force behind this whole project. That's why I named it the Fearless Mindset, because he was my inspiration on, okay, dad just died. You lose your identity, you lose yourself, you go through grieving, you go through the grieving process. Now what do I do? I'm single. Okay. All right. I took care of dad for 3 years. All right. Now what's the next chapter? What's the next door I walk through? And like Ben Corson said, I have 10,000 hours before I get good at what I'm doing. And, this podcast thing it's been fun because you're sharing experiences with people. You're sharing your story. And thanks for having me on this. And I didn't know it would go there, but I decided in my 5th episode not to be scripted.
Yeah.
Be authentic. Be you, because that's what people want to hear. They want to hear your heart and hear the inner core of who you really are. Anybody can be scripted. If you want to do that, go watch a movie from Hollywood.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, this has been absolutely all my pleasure, Mark. And thank you for being so raw and authentic and being real. This couldn't have been anything better than I could have ever imagined, especially for episode 1, because like I said, it's even these realizations as we're in this recording, and in this podcast, that I'm just like, wow, now I know why our paths have crossed. And remember, it's the power of networking. Like I told you, oddly enough, how I met you, right? And then it led to having the same production team. And yeah, there's no accidents.
Yeah, in 2020, I was planning on going to all these conferences nationwide, and you can't fly anywhere, can't go to conferences. And like, well, how am I going to get any business, or how am I getting any work? And then like Christopher explained to me, he said, well, if you start doing podcasting, get to know everybody out there. They get to know you, and without even meeting you, they get to know you. I'm like, well, that's a good point. And to think about all the money you save by doing a podcast versus traveling, hotels, airline tickets. I'm like, whoa, that's a good point too. It's like, okay, let's try it out. Let's see where it goes. And when I started this thing, I'm thinking, it may go for a few months, and we'll see how it goes and see what the response is. And like, oh, wow. This little baby is starting to walk. I'm like, my mind, like, we'll see what happens. Is that I've always, like I told you before, I'm naturally a skeptic. I'm very introverted. I'm not an extrovert at all, really. I'm very analytical. I'm like to be myself, and I'm a thinker. I'm a processor. And Christopher would always call me up and say, dude, this thing's blowing up. I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. I wouldn't even believe him. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
I'm so naturally skeptical. Like, okay, when I see the first sponsor check, then I'll believe it. And right now, I'm just going through my 10,000 hours, like Ben Corson relayed yesterday on our podcast.
So is 10,000 hours the key number of like what the energy and time and effort you put into your work? And then after
become a master of it. And right now I'm on episode 8.
I know. I'm all like 8 hours. For me, it's like 8 billion. Okay. I have 7,999.
I mean, to be real about it, I'm a guy that, grew up in Southern Oregon, that had a dream and went to Southern California. Everybody told me not to do it. What are you going to do in Southern Oregon? They're going to eat you out like a shark. My dad's like, oh, they're going to eat you up and spit you out in LA. I'm like, nah, I'm tougher than that. And moving to LA was very similar to going back to boot camp all over again for me, because it's such a big culture shock. Dating girls was just so different from Oregon. I'm like, what am I doing down here? What have I done? These people are crazy. They drive like they're NASCAR racing on the highways, and they don't usually. The one thing that got me so bad in LA was they honk at you. If you honk in Oregon, people get out of their cars. And people started honking in Sherman Oaks. I'm like, what is people's problem? And they ride your rear end. I'm like, I got so mad. I'm like, why are you riding my rear end? And people just cut you off on the highway. What is wrong with people around here? And
Right.
that just drove me nuts. And it was an adjustment. But, you know, had I not made that decision to go and let fear reign my mind, I wouldn't be here today.
Absolutely.
You gotta be fearless in your approach in life. You just gotta get out of your head. COVID-19, the elections, get up and do something. Be productive because life is too short. Watch,
Yep.
Netflix for the rest of your life and become a Netflix. And, podcasting, I mean, to be real about it, only 1% make money in this podcast world. I mean, let's be honest. Am I going to be a millionaire from it? Probably not.
Yeah.
And you want to share a story, if you have to go in this thing as a podcaster, share your story. And if it results fruit, great. But be real about it, Don't tell yourself a fantasy. But nothing wrong with dreaming too. Nothing wrong with having a dream and a passion. And yeah, there's a lot of people out there do different things, but do things that motivate. Like you said, your passion is to tell stories. That's your passion. If that's your vision, passion, follow that dream because it will take you somewhere. And security has taken me, and the Marine Corps has taken me here, and the podcast world has been very unique. It's been a journey. It's like having to start all over again and learn a new thing, learn how to talk on a microphone, learn how to work these things. And
I was like, if I could turn my laptop around, everyone see a ring light, right?
yeah, it's just it's a different venue. It's a different thing, but people are trying to reinvent. You got to reinvent yourself. As Tony Robbins called, you got to pivot. If you're not pivoting, that's just life. You have different seasons in life. And as these seasons change, you got to change with it. COVID-19 has forced everybody to change. And real estate, now you're doing things with FaceTime because you get COVID-19 issues.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I was in new home sales when pandemic hit, and everyone's like, we're going to show homes on Zoom. How do we do it? We were literally walking through the homes with our phones. It is the most insane thing. It like literally the universe said, you guys are going to walk into an age of technology, an age of innovation. And we literally were just like, what? And here we are doing.
No, Liz, let me ask you this about real estate is, I heard it's going crazy in Southern California right now because the interest rates are low, but do you guys see it keeping on going, or is it going to change based on the elections, or what are you guys seeing out there?
If we do see a change, and it would be maybe in the elections, right after elections, but nothing major. Because to be honest with you, they already know that the government knows that when the pandemic hit, that not many people might make it out of forbearance. So what in the real estate, so what they're trying to do from making the market crash is they're keeping interest rates low, and in hopes that a lot of these people can refinance at such a lower interest rate and help them carry them through these times, uncertain times, because it really will be uncertain for a while, even if, let's say, for instance, we come up with a vaccine. So they're hoping that keeping the interest rates low, that many people will just, refinance rate and term and then be able to keep their homes. But there are unfortunately going to be people that don't make it out of forbearance simply because their industries are wiped out. They're things that they've been doing for many years, right? Service industry, for one, like, how do you ever think service industry is going to be affected? Boom, it's COVID. And all of a sudden, a whole industry is completely wiped out and everyone has to pivot. So real estate is going to be good for a while in terms of interest rates. And what's happening is because of the low interest rates, it's allowing people who wouldn't necessarily be able to afford the higher price homes get in because the interest rates are low. But everyone just has to be very mindful. But there's always, like I said, in every real estate market, there's always going to be a buyer and seller for it. We just have to brace ourselves that there are, I wouldn't say immediately, but let's just say a year out, once pandemic assistance is gone and there's a little bit more of a direction, you're going to start seeing some homeowners be a little bit in distress because they couldn't make it through the forbearance process. The good thing is the forbearance loans policies right now for COVID are really good. So meaning to say, as opposed to the mortgage meltdown where you'd have to, when you start repaying, you have to clump that whole payment together. Now they're just tacking it on to the very end of the loan. So it's really designed to help us all, get through this time frame. But
now, are they saying anything in the forecast? Like, how we had the 2008 crash?
mm-hmm.
Are they seeing anything like that coming around again anytime soon, or what does that all look like?
They are predicting it because the National Association of Realtors have already started giving classes again on short sales and foreclosures, and actually
Already.
That actually
Okay.
happens to be our specialty as a family business, or my brothers and the skill sets that my mom gave us. So once I started seeing it, it's not that I wouldn't know how to do short sales and foreclosures. It's I want to know the statistics. And when I took the class, that's what she was saying. The government securities, like the government backed loans for mortgages, they know just with sheer numbers, not everyone is going to make it through forbearance. So
when did that going to hit? Do they have a year like 2022 when that may start hitting with all the housing stuff?
If my predictions would be based upon just my experience, if we do, let's say, because right now, the pandemic assistance, it went from 600 to 300 a week. So now it's really forced a lot of people to go either back to work or find something, because that 300 is not going to sustain them to either pay, rent or mortgages. Once that runs out, there's always that 3-month time period where you go into default, and then you have what you call notice of default at 3 months in. And then from there, if you have a notice of default and you don't make payments for another 3 months, you go into foreclosure, and that's where the sale of the house happens. So let's just say if they take us all the way to December with pandemic, with the pandemic assistance, you're looking at maybe the first wave of distressed properties coming maybe after first quarter, or even let's just push it out, maybe another 6 months. And then from there, another 3 months rolls out. So maybe another good year and a half, if that's happening. And then you also have to understand, it's not specific to, it depends where it's going to. So when you're going to see these distressed properties, and when I say distress, it's not the property itself. I'm just talking about the owner of the property. They're in a distressed financial situation. It could come from all different places. So it's not going to even say there's this pocket of Los Angeles that has all these things. It's really the pockets, or the demographics are the people in specific industries whose incomes have been either wiped out. So it's going to be really interesting to see that. They said it's not going to be as bad as the mortgage meltdown of 2008, but there will be stuff that surfaces automatically just because of this pandemic. It's literally wiped out some industries or specific professions, and they've had to pivot. Hopefully, my prayer is that everyone pivots fast, and that's exactly what you're saying. You've got to roll with the times, and if you don't do it fast enough, and if you're just resistant to change, you're not going to survive.
You'll get hurt financially.
Yeah, you'll get hurt. So
I know I think Pelosi and Mnuchin are trying to hash out something before November 3rd. I saw that on CNBC. They're trying to get some sort of relief, COVID-19 distress package by both the House and the Senate. Hopefully they do that. They need to take care of the American people. I mean,
they absolutely do.
We got to something with all this. This is just craziness.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like we're almost holding our breath until elections. And then after the elections, okay, everyone's going to say, okay, what if I only have pandemic assistance until December? So what happens there? It's
right.
a rolling fear that has us bound. So that's why I'm saying a lot of people are not watching media because it's very fear-based.
It is. And that's why the podcast world's exploding. Like we talked on the phone, there's 1 million podcasters now in the United States or all over the world. Everybody's podcasting. And what I heard too, the millennials, they don't want to watch the news because they know it's sided, left or right, it's sided. And they'd rather hear people's personal stories about different things. And it's just, I get it. I understand why they think that way. They're just tired of the negative. And And like Ben Corson said yesterday on our podcast with Generation of Hope, he said people just need to get off their phones, get off social media, and they live because they're. He said something about there's like an impulse that goes up and down like this in your brain. It causes a chemical reaction. I forget how he termed it, but you have to watch the podcast. But he explained it very well. And there's an addiction that creates by doing that, by being engaging in social media constantly. I mean, like yourself, you have to do different things like LinkedIn, and we do LinkedIn professionally for networking. I get, but I looked at my phone this morning going, I started getting caught into it. I'm like, Mark, these people don't know you. You will never have a conversation on the phone. You'll never get together with them. So what do you care what they think? I'm like, and I had to back off and shut it down. I'm like, you know what? Whoa. You got to create barriers just to keep your mental health. You got to just check out. It might be good to stay off social media until after the elections because everybody's so polarized left or right. They're just angry, and life's too short. After Dad died with cancer, it's like you learn what battles to fight. You learn what priority is. What's the value? What do you place values on? Like people being with your family and loved ones, or living today like it's last, or live like you're going to have the rest of your life. You may not get there, another 20 years of life. You got to look at life now, live it.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to bring the focus first, just right here in front of your face.
Absolutely. Right? Be in the now.
You're gonna start pivoting because you hear this on the news and you did this. Just take it just right here, right in front of your face. And ask yourself, what are the most important things in your life right now? It's going to be you, your mental health, and it's you and your family, and then you make decisions based on that from there. And I think that when you can bring that into focus, it helps you create the next steps for your life. So
yeah, and I think too, I see people are not living in the present. Mm-hmm. They're just not. They got so used to being on Twitter, social media, Facebook, whatever they're doing. And everybody's so busy taking their dinner shots, they're not enjoying the people around them during the dinner or during the get together. They're so busy taking selfies. But what about what's going on in your life? Sit down and talk. And I see that more and more. And then, I see people fighting on Facebook. I'm like, I just shake my head going, ugh, it's just junk that you allow to get in your brain, and it brings you down too. And Ben Corson even covered that in our podcast yesterday. But the psychological part of it. What's that?
You watch that Ben Corson episode.
Yeah, that kid taught me a lot. I call him a kid because I'm older than he is, but he's so wise. He's so mature, and he's on YouTube. Ben Corson, Generation of Hope, and I listened to his audiobook, and I was like, whoa. I was impressed because the guy has done research scientifically on how everything works in the brain, and he correlates to that different prescriptions you'd be given.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful. But yeah, I got a lot out of his podcast. I was like, whoa. He actually he took me back. He's so energetic. And the guy's flying all over the country, dealing with depression, PTSD issues, to suicide, people dealing with suicide, like our military. So I really enjoyed that episode. It's probably one of my favorite ones.
Wow. No, I'm just saying, like, when you're really anointed by spirit, or something carries you, or you have inspiration from something like our parents, it's amazing what ends up happening. It's almost just like you just let it carry you. But like if you get stumped in fear, you're never going to move. Like sometimes you'll just spend a day worrying about everything. And that's what I was having this conversation with you before we started recording this, was just like, I felt this pressure to keep recording all these episodes and lining all these people up. And I just said, look, I started this for the message. I'm just going to let like God and universe and spirit take its course. Whoever is here, I hope that the skill sets that I have, if I ask the right question, the message will come out. And it was literally unfolded before my eyes right here in this podcast. So it's been
I could be part of it. Yeah, for me, I learned, put the script down. You might have some questions. You have it on a legal pad or something like I do sometimes, but I've learned the best conversations I have are just a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
They come to your mind and talk about it. It's just not that hard. But people get caught, they get in their own way and they make it more complicated, and then they go analysis paralysis and they can't function. Yeah, it's taken me a few episodes to get here. I mean, I'm not, I'm, I'm just doing it to give back to the military and law enforcement community. And then who knows where this goes? Who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just going, put my 10,000 hours, and we'll see what doors open. But yeah, it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, no, it's been such a pleasure to be a part of it, Mark. But yeah, I mean, do you have we've shared so many things. Do you have any last parting messages or words for anyone that will ever come across this in terms of, I don't know, following your purpose and passion? I think it all unfolded throughout this talk that we have, but it's been, I don't know if you have any last words to share.
If I could say anything, is basically live in the present, live in the now. And then if you're having family members that are getting sick, be there. Just be there for them. They're there for you. And here's one thing that just hit me in the head. When I was going back and forth to the nursing home, I spent almost 7 days a week, 8 hours a day in that nursing home for 2 years. And what I saw was so disappointing. So I was very disgusted with what I saw. 90% of the residents there did not have family members coming to see them. 90%. I had caregivers and nurses come like, oh my God, your dad is so lucky. Oh, you and your sisters come in daily. 99% of the people that live in daycares and old folks' home, as you call them, their family does not come and see them. Why? Because they're so busy. Busy being what? Those people took care of you. Where are you? Where'd you go? Oh, you're too busy? Well, your parents were probably dying of something.
Yeah.
And just think about that for a minute. And if I can give anything, your parents took care of you, you got to return the favor. Mm-hmm. There's so much selflessness in our country and our culture. If I remember correctly, the Philippines take care of their own family members. Mm-hmm. They don't allow that to happen in their country.
No.
And Americans should be disgusted. Americans should, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and think, what's wrong with your culture? Because Philippines, they don't do that to their family. Americans do. And that's wrong. And if I could say anything, it's just that. What I saw, I was disgusted. All these people would be dying, and you could see hopelessness in their eyes. They haven't seen their family members in here, although they live too far away. No, that's an excuse. That's a crutch.
Yeah.
And, take care of your family members, because that made me so mad. I see the hopelessness and look in the eyes of people. Well, we're too busy. We got to pay bills. Oh my gosh, we all do. Quit making excuses. Take care of your family members. And that might piss off a lot of people, but guess what? It's true.
It's true. It is very true. From the moment that my mom was diagnosed, there was never a time that she was alone. It was either between me, my brother, and sister. We always rotated. We all had full-time jobs, and we rotated in any form and capacity because we never wanted my mom to be alone. And it was just that was probably the best. It was the most painful watching her go through cancer, but that was really what truly defined us as a family, was that love. Because I think that each day it was enough for her to keep having hope, to keep living another day, giving us another day. But again, everything is always in God's hands, and it happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen. So.
Yeah, that's one thing that hit me in the head just now when he asked me that. I'm like, oh yeah, when I went to the nursing home and see my dad 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. Yeah, I know you had to work, pay the bills, but you never see anybody. Oh, Thanksgiving will pop in, Christmas will pop in, and it's just the selfishness of our country's culture is just repulsive. Just repulsive. I mean, those people have families, I'm sure. Some maybe don't, but it was sad to see so many people just look of despair because no one coming to see them, and it's in their final hour, their final hour of hope, and it was very that struck a chord with me. If I can say anything, take care of your family members.
90% people in there.
I would say 90% of people didn't have people coming in to visit them.
That makes makes me so
Yeah.
sad.
And so the nurses would come up to me and goes, Mark, nobody comes to see these people. I'm like, really? Wow. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, maybe different parts of the country may be different, but that was Southern Oregon at least. It broke my heart for those people that were suffering with cancer, whatever diseases they had, and family members let them lay there. Me and my sisters were in there. We'd rotate, but my sisters and I took care of Dad, and I took him out, and have a blast. Live life, just enjoy that last moment because you don't know who you'll have the next day tomorrow because they're passed away. But yeah, that's something I took away is the quality of life. And you can work yourself to death the rest of your life. Then what do you have to show for it when you have your last days on Earth? Values. Yeah, another rabbit trail.
What an amazing parting last message. So you guys have heard it all here. Everything from Mark Ledlow's journey from the military, from actually him growing up in Southern Oregon to military, to executive protection, and now to the Fearless Mind podcast. So it was such a pleasure having you as episode number 1.
Wow.
And now I've got 7,999,000,999. I don't even know.
Wow. A lot of numbers.
A lot of numbers. Actually, I don't know if I'm going to cover 8 billion. I just want to share stories like yours,
Well, if Oprah Winfrey can do it and Dr. Phil can do it, you can do it too.
Yes. Fearless mindset, right?
Right. Fearless mindset. Yep.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for your time here. It was truly an honor to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I hope it helps somebody out there.
Yeah. Okay, until our next episode, guys. This is Mark, David Ledlow, host of Fearless Mindset Podcast. If you've got a chance, go on his channel. What platforms are you on, Mark? So then if they'd like to follow you or watch some of your episodes.
Oh, yeah. I'm on I'm Mark David Ledlow on Instagram. I'm Mark Ledlow on LinkedIn, and my Twitter is I'm on there on Twitter as well for my professional platform where I interview industry leaders in the security industry. And you can look me up on Ledlow Security Group website for our security company that we service companies all over the country for different needs that they have.
And you have a YouTube channel.
I do. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I do have a YouTube channel, Mark Ledlow. I'm on YouTube. You can like me, subscribe me, or don't watch me at all. I don't care.
We don't care. We're just gonna wing this, right? And we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I don't care anymore. I'm just doing it. We'll go. As they say, roll with the punches. As Rocky said, keep on getting up. Every time you get punched, keep on getting back up.
Right. Right. What? Fall 10 times, get up 11.
Exactly. Just kind of keep on going and face life. You just master life, or life will master you. That's my final words.
Awesome. Well, those are amazing words to leave everyone with. But everyone, thank you so much. Lisa Florida as your host for 8 Billion Project. And this is an amazing episode. So thank you, Mark. And I'm wishing you tremendous success with your podcast and in life in general.
As they say, peace out, sister.
Peace out. Till the next one.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If it's moved you in any way, please review and share your thoughts, or text me your thoughts at 949-247-2800.